First half of football complete in our Division V state championship game. The Kirtland Hornets on top of Coldwater by a score of 14-0. 186 yards of total offense and 175 of it coming on the ground. They've got Christian Hauber with a touchdown, Damon Washington with a touchdown. They have done everything they've wanted to do in this first half of action, and Kirtland with the lead over Coldwater by a score of 14-0. Let's step aside for a moment. Randy Reinhardt, who will be calling the action today from Fawcett Stadium and also tomorrow along with A.J. Trapasso, had a chance to sit down and talk with the commissioner of the Ohio High School Athletic Association, Dr. Dan Ross. Here's Randy and Dr. Dan.
We are joined now by the commissioner of the Ohio High School Athletic Association, Dr. Dan Ross. And Dr. Ross, thank you for joining us.
Well, it's wonderful to be here, and I can't believe that it's this time of year already. It just seems like yesterday we were sitting down doing this last year.
Let's talk about this weekend now. I know it wraps up the fall sports season in grand fashion, not just football, but all the fall sports, beginning with golf in mid-October. I know that you attend all of the state tournaments. What were some of the things that stood out for you this fall when you gaze back on some of those championships?
Well, I think we were blessed to have some pretty good weather for most of them, and I think we're always amazed here in Ohio and conversations from some of the administration from across the country. They cannot believe the community support that the schools in Ohio and the youngsters in Ohio receive from the communities that we live in. So I think that's probably one that each year goes on, you're just continually amazed. I think we were felt really, really good about the opportunity we moved the state cross-country championship to National Trail Raceway from Scioto Downs, and that went extremely well. There's always going to be blips that you have to work through, but for the most part, I think it went really, really well. And I think one of the probably heartstring pieces from the fall is we had a young lady, Sammy Stoner from Lexington High School, that ran in the district cross-country tournament with her guide dog. Sammy's blind, and she and Chloe finished the race, and it was just one of those memorable experiences that I think touched all of us.
We're talking with Dr. Dan Ross. He is the commissioner of the Ohio High School Athletic Association. Commissioner, at this time last year, the competitive balance proposal was getting a lot of attention, and even though it was voted down last May, is this still an area of concern for the OHSAA?
Well, I think it's an area of concern. It's been an area of concern for years. Competitive Balance Committee put together a great proposal. And it was very, very closely contested in the spring and lost by 29 votes. The committee came back together, suggested that we do a survey with high school principals from our member schools, which that survey was completed in the early fall. And the committee is going to kind of put this on hold until the Division I committee that is meeting and has met in the last couple weeks, until that committee comes together and makes their recommendation to the board, and then this committee will get back together to say, okay, if there are any changes with that piece that need to be addressed, then the Competitive Balance Committee will come back together. Whether they'll be able to put a referendum item on in the spring, I don't know. But I know that this is going to be a journey that we're going to be on dealing with this competitive balance issue.
You alluded to the Division I committee. Explain that to our listeners. What are they working on right now?
For people that may not be aware, all of our divisions are made up of an equal number of schools. If we have, like in football, if we have 6 divisions, they'll each have as close as we can get to the same number of schools in each division. Well, when you get to Division I, you'll have the 120 schools that will be in there, but the enrollment of those schools in basketball, it's I think we're in the 370 range at the bottom, and at the top is over 1,200. And so you can certainly have an awful lot more to choose from when you have 1,200 boys in your school than if you had 369 boys in your school. And so they're looking at trying to figure a way to maybe deal with Division I and reduce the disparity between the bottom and the top of the division. And if you think about that, it's probably about 3 times the size of if you took from the bottom of Division IV to the top of Division II. And put those together, you can probably get 3 of those inside of Division I. And so they're trying to find a way to be able to cut that disparity without adversely affecting any of the other divisions that are involved.
Dr. Ross, I go back a number of decades, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess. I remember when we talked about the fact a long time ago that we thought soccer would be the next growth sport, and it was. As we sit here today, what do you think the next growth sport will be for the Ohio High School Athletic Association?
Actually, the one that's growing the fastest for us right now is bowling. And probably a lot of reasons for that. But it's a great lifetime sport. I think lacrosse is out there knocking on the door. Boys volleyball is out there knocking on the door. And I think one of the things that we're going to have some conversations about are what about some of the other activities that youngsters are participating in that we may not think, and I don't like to use the word extreme sports, but sports that maybe are out there but haven't really been put. We hear an awful lot of requests from archery. And it's kind of funny because, we even get requests for rodeo because there's rodeos in Northwest Ohio, and after the rodeo makes their circuit through there, we start getting phone calls the next week about when are we going to have rodeo. Well, we're not planning on having rodeo, but, the archery and some of the ones that you really don't stop and think about a whole lot. Bass fishing has been truly the fastest growing sport in Illinois. And Kentucky just put that in. So we're going to probably take a good hard look at a lot of those. But we should take a good hard look, because if our youngsters are participating in those and we can provide those opportunities, those are the kind of things that we should be doing.
The voice of our chief cowboy here, Dr. Dan Ross. Dr. Ross, thank you for your time.
We appreciate it, and thank you so much for your support for high school sports.
And let's pause now for these messages from the Ohio High School Athletic Association. You're listening to the OHSAA Radio Network, brought to you by Chocolate Milk.
This is Joe Thomas from the Cleveland Browns.
This is Chinadum Ndukwe from the Cincinnati Bengals.
Take it from me.
Take it from me.
Nutrient-rich chocolate milk is an ideal beverage to drink after sporting events and practices.
Being active and eating healthy are keys to living well.
Chocolate milk tastes great.
Refuel with chocolate milk. It's a great way to fuel up.
Eat healthy, get active, make a difference.
I'm Professor Burke from the University of Farmers, where agents' intellects are focused like laser beams, and this is a pop quiz. True or false? There is no reward for turning 50. The big 5-0. False. By sitting down with a Farmers agent, you can get access to the Farmers 50-plus discount and many others that could save you hundreds on your home insurance. But other than that, it's mostly just slippers and bingo.
We are insurance.
We are Farmers. Bum, ba, bum, 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 bum.
Call a Farmers agent to discuss tailoring a policy for your home. Find your local agent at farmers.com.
You're listening to the State Football Championships on the Ohio High School Athletic Association Radio Network.
Halftime at Paul Brown Tiger Stadium in Massillon. It's the Kirtland Hornets on top by a score of 14-0 right now over the Coldwater Cavaliers. Todd Bell, Justin Zwick with you. A first half that has pretty much been dominated by Kirtland. You say dominated, it's only 14-0, but really they've controlled the line of scrimmage. They've kept they've really slowed down the Coldwater offense and done everything that they've wanted to do on offense themselves.
Yeah, with an offense like Coldwater, if you can keep them off the field and keep them cold, that's only going to help you because they're not getting in a rhythm, they're not getting things going. So, you have the ball, you're running it, you're controlling the clock, and you're moving the ball. You put a couple touchdowns on the board. You get the ball and have a long drive in the second half. Soon enough, they're going to be rushing to get some points on the board.
Our marathon drive of the first half. Marathon, proud to be the official fuel service provider of the OHSAA and support high school student athletes across the state of Ohio. Visit marathon.com to plan your next trip. Marathon has over 5,000 locations to serve you. Marathon, fueling the American spirit. And we debated. There's really only two drives to talk about, which we could pick from, the first one or the last one. And Justin, you thought the 10-play, 56-yard drive that he ate up 402 of the last 412 of the first half to make it 14-0 was a little more important.
Well, I just feel like, we felt like they dominated the game, and it was still only 7-0 going into that drive. So I think right before half, taking that ball, eating the clock up, going down the field, and getting that score to put you up 2 scores is really, the one that was the most important. Going into halftime, you're feeling good about things. Even though you may lose. You lost for the end of that drive anyways. Haber, who's really been a big part of your offense, they're still able to put it in the end zone, and you go into halftime feeling a lot better, up 14-0 than you do 7-0.
If you're Coldwater right now, what are you talking about in the locker room? I mean, offensively, your best drive has been the first one of the game. 8 plays, 50 yards, got downfield. They've had 1-3. They've only had 4 possessions, 8 plays, 6 plays, a 3-and-out, and then that one for the last 10 seconds of the first half.
Yeah, I really think you got to get back to the beginning of the game. That first play of the game for their offense, your wide receiver screen. Second play, a little 5-yard hitch, you're out. And that's moving the ball. And these cornerbacks are playing off far enough where you can do that. And you have a quarterback who can read that defense. It's a pre-snap read, so it's one boom, it's a quick throw, and you're moving the ball. It's almost like the run game of Kirtland, but you're doing it through the air, and you're just moving it 5 yards at a time and taking what the defense is giving you. I think they got to get back to that, and then you're able to throw some quarterback runs and different things into there.
How do you can watch them on film if you're Coldwater, but as you said, this is an offense you're not used to seeing. 10 years ago, sure, and the spread offense was the one you weren't used to seeing. Now it's completely done a 180, and now when you see these types of – it's all about the blocking right now for Kirtland and Coldwater. As the half went on, got better, but then that last drive, they were back to giving up 4 and 5 and 6 yards a run.
Yeah, and another thing you got to think about is it's a tough offense to go against. You got to make sure you're playing fundamental defense. Guys are staying in their spots, but you also got to think about how much their defense has been on the field. These drives can go they can go into some length, and you're eating up a lot of clock, and you're playing a lot of plays on that defensive line. Those guys, big guys, playing a lot of plays, playing quick, can get tired. And so those holes are going to continue to open up, and they're going to continue to run the ball.
Time of possession first half, 17:46 to 6:14.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That defense is on the field a lot of the time in that first half. They're going to get tired. I mean, you can't help it no matter how good a shape you're in. And Kirtland's done a good job at not only running the ball, but they've had a good pace to it. They've been getting up to the line of scrimmage, running their plays. Boom, let's get back on the ball and go do it again. So that's only going to make that defense more tired. And, that's probably a lot of what we saw at the end of the half there with some of those big runs. These guys they're gassed right now, and going into halftime, and some holes open up when that's happening.
Kirtland on top 14-0. You hear the Hornets marching band performing in the background. You already heard a little bit of Coldwater's, the end of theirs. We'll take another timeout. We'll come back and digest all of the first half numbers for you as we pause for these messages from your local station. 14-0 Kirtland at halftime. You're listening to the OHSAA Radio Network, brought to you by Chocolate Milk.
Ohio students help create the association's program on sporting behavior.
Through the Respect the Game campaign, we are encouraging student athletes, parents, fans, coaches, and officials to do 3 important things.
Speak with courtesy, act with dignity, and play or observe with pride.
Bill Hoskett, Ohio State basketball All-American, NBA champion, and Olympic gold medalist on student athletes.
Studies show that students who play school sports tend to have better attendance records, higher grade point averages, fewer discipline problems, and are more likely to pursue a college education. High school sports also teach leadership, character, and provide the foundation for becoming a good citizen. Let's respect the game and remember to always keep student first in student athlete.
A message from the Ohio High School Athletic Association.